Linda, thank you for doing this. This is very exciting for me. GE has been around, what, 125 years?
We say 124.
Okay.
So that we can save our 125th anniversary
Have a big celebration.
Yep, exactly.
You're a product of the first industrial revolution. You still build steam turbines and trains. You're a product of the second industrial revolution, electricity. But now your job is to convince the world that you're a digital company.
Yep.
How do you do that?
So, Allan, it's great to be here with you. Allan and I were having such a great conversation backstage. We could almost just continue it right here. But I'd say, GE believes, and my job is to convince all of you, that what we are about to face in terms of digital is, if anything, perhaps even bigger than the last two revolutions.
Bigger than electricity or steam engines?
We see 50 billion machines being connected by the year 2020. And it's more, guys, than the connectivity. The connectivity is key, but as Allan and I were talking about, the data only gives you a certain amount. It's the analytics that sit on top of that. So today we talk about ourselves at GE as a digital industrial company. So to your point, we've always made things. Now we're making and connecting and working with our customers to drive productivity. Yeah. And we think this is, to use an old Jack Welch word, boundaryless.
Yeah, so GE has always been great at marketing. I want to get back to marketing. But this isn't, like I remember Eco-Imagination. Yep. It was a fun marketing campaign, but it was a marketing campaign. It wasn't an industrial.
It was both, but let's go with it.
But this is driving change throughout this big, giant, old company. It's messaging. It must be messaging inside as much as you're messaging outside.
Yeah, it's just transformative. So maybe 5 years ago or so, Allan, we kind of coined this term of industrial internet. And at that point, we started hiring people. I think you've spoken to, perhaps you've been in San Ramon, our facility in the East Bay, California. We started hiring folks from software. We started hiring computer engineers, and really began what has been this incredible journey of creating an operating system for industry. We call it Predix. It's sort of a heavy duty cloud to store literally petabytes of information. But the game for us, if you will, is driving productivity inside the company, and then ultimately driving productivity for our customers.
So I want to just ask the group, how many of you have heard of Predix? Raise your hand if you're familiar with Predix.
Yeah.
Pretty small group. Okay, so I was having I was telling Linda backstage, totally independent of this, I was having a conversation with Nelson Peltz, who has become one of your investors. They were saying when they made the investment, they valued the company. They didn't put a value on Predix, but he wouldn't be surprised at all if 10 or 15 years from now, Predix is the biggest division, in fact, as big as the rest of the company. So this is a big long-term bet that you're making.
It's change. Predix has been in development, and again, for GE, we're a company that has in the past made hardware. So this idea of something that is software enabled, where you push out releases, it's a whole new kind of thinking. But we introduced Predix in general availability just a couple months ago at Mobile World Congress, and I think at this point, Allan, we've got maybe close to 10,000 developers on it. And Allan and I were having this conversation backstage a little bit. It's less the technology, and it's more what Predix will enable our customers to be able to do. So I hope this time next year, like, everybody's hand will be raised.
But so tell me this. I mean, you've got Apple wants to change the way people work. You've got Amazon, moving big into the space. You've got Google. Why should we believe that a physics company like GE is going to solve this software problem?
Yeah. I mean, our view, and it's very powerful in my opinion, is that GE for 124 years has made locomotives, we've made healthcare machines, we've made all kinds of, sort of the whole ecosystem in the energy space. Our bet is that kind of domain knowledge is irreplaceable, and that we can build the software layer, which is what we're doing, that we can both hire people, train people, and create the software and analytics, but that domain experience, knowing how machines work, is irreplaceable.
So you have a better shot at moving from physics to software than a software company has at moving from software into physics.
That's our bet.
Well,
That's our bet. Not easy, but that's our bet.
Now, one of the things you have to do to make good on that bet is hire programmers, hire data scientists, hire the most difficult to hire people in the economy right now. How are you doing on that?
So I would say that the people issue, and all of you in this audience, I'm sure can relate to this pretty easily, talent is tough, right? We all want the very best engineers, the very best software thinkers. So we've kind of had a little bit of fun with this one. So we, in this desire to sort of talk about the company we are becoming, this idea of digital industrial, we wanted to say, well, what does it mean to be a digital industrial company? And we found a fun way to do this that has also paid off with recruiting. So maybe we show them
let's look at, can we show the first and the second ad, please? They are ads.
They are ads.
I heard you got a job as a developer.
It's official. I work for GE.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, I'll be writing a new language for machines, so planes, trains, even hospitals can work better.
Sorry, I was trying to put it away.
Got it on the cape.
So you're gonna work on a train?
Not on a train, on trains.
You're not gonna develop stuff anymore?
No, I am. Do you know what GE is?
Owen!
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, fancy seeing you here.
I live right over there, actually. You've been to my place.
No, I wasn't. Oh, look, you dropped something.
It's your resume with a $20 bill taped to it.
That's weird.
You want to work for GE too?
What?
Well, we're always looking for developers who are up for big, world-changing challenges, like making planes, trains, and hospitals
Why don't
run
you check
better.
in your watch and tell me what time I should be
Oh,
there?
I don't hire people. I'm a developer.
Gonna need Monday off.
Oh, again, not my call.
Is it working?
So well, so we, as I said, we created these as a way to talk about what it is to be a digital industrial company, because so many people know our heritage, right? As we started off talking about. Since we launched these, recruiting is up eightfold. And literally people sort of say, oh, Owen, I love that guy. I mean, he's come to events with me. It's been galvanizing internally.
But if I have a job offer from Google, I mean, one of the things we do at Fortune is the 100 best companies to work for list, and for the last 8 years in a row, I think Google has been at the top of the list. If I have a job offer from Google and I have a job offer from GE, is that a competitive contest?
Here's what I think is competitive, and the ads are fun, right? It's marketing, as Allan said. What is competitive, what's incredibly competitive, is to work on things that matter. And I think the reason these have hit a bit of a chord is it gets to that idea, right? I mean, everybody works on stuff that matters. I think when you come to GE, you can work on bringing electricity to the third of the world that still doesn't have electricity. You can work on remote healthcare. You can work on the future of transportation. There's a mission-based quality to the company. We really do, we sort of go back all the way to Edison, right? I look for what the world needs and try to solve it. And I think that's what we tap into. I mean, look, they're great companies. Google's a fantastic company. Apple's a fantastic company. Some you win some, you lose some. But we find more and more people are really bought into both the mission and then the vision of where we're going with the industrialization of industry.
Is it a different culture out in San Ramon than it is in Fairfield, moving to Boston?
A little, but I will say, so those of you who don't know, GE is moving our headquarters after quite decades in Fairfield, Connecticut up to Boston, and we're really excited about this. We're gonna kind of redefine what a corporate
You're going to make everything look more like San Ramon?
Well, we're going to create an open culture. We're going to have,
free
people
food
sitting out in the open. I don't know. You have to ask HR.
Nap pods?
No, I don't think there's nap pods. I don't think there are nap pods in San Ramon. But I think this idea of what does it mean to be a corporate headquarters today is very different than what it was envisioned 40 years ago, right? People would come to us. Now corporate headquarters is going to be relatively small, and we're going to connect with people by telepresence. Plus in Boston, I mean, you know this, 50 plus universities, life sciences, tech up the wazoo. We're excited to be there.
So it's so interesting. You're the chief marketing officer for GE. We've spent the last 10 minutes talking about internal change. We really probably ought to talk about external marketing, but it is interesting that the two come together the way they do in this world. It's not, you can't send, in the transparent world that we live in today, you can't send one message to the outside world and a different message to the inside world, okay?
Internal and external are the same. I mean, I don't know, do you feel that way?
Oh, absolutely.
Fortune?
No, I think anybody in media is going through the same thing. You have to assume that everybody will know everything sooner or later.
That's
and
right.
so you can't segment.
Yeah.
You can't send different messages.
Yeah.
So talk about the external world, because obviously media has, in some ways, what's happening at GE right now is what media started going through 2 decades ago.
Yes.
And it has changed so fast. How does GE get its messages out?
Yeah. So, for us, we're a company that everybody knows. Who knows who GE is? Just raise your hand. Okay. So everybody knows the company. The challenge is never for us awareness after 124 years. It's making sure people know us for what we want them to know us for. The kind of company we've been talking about, a digital industrial company. And importantly, I think a lot of that comes out in the tone that we use, the way that we talk about the company. You want to, I think, get to know a company that's accessible, that's human, that can have a little fun with itself. Again, I go back to these ads. Why did they work? They were a little irreverent. We didn't take ourselves too seriously. So what we've been trying to do, Allan, on the sort of broad marketing side is to show that about GE, show our humanity, show that we're passionate about science, invite people who share that passion to kind of come along for the ride. If they don't, that's okay too. So, that's led us to partner with a number of different startups, some of you in the audience who I've run into here this morning, partner with all kinds of folks in the media, create our own content.
It's a very different media relationship.
Completely
You're
different.
co-creating.
We're co-creating. And that is something, 4 or 5 years ago, it's hard to imagine that we were going to do that. It's everything, guys, from, last week we worked with Thrillist. I think many of you know Thrillist, Ben Lehre's company, to create a bottle of hot sauce that we put on sale and we wrapped in the same materials that we use in our jet engines, a silicon carbide. Just a way for us to make the company a little more understandable. So, would we ever have done that? I don't even know that we would have thought about it, Allan. Right?
Now, people on my side of the aisle, people in the media world, when you start talking about native advertising,
Yes.
There was, I don't know if you watched it, the John Oliver rant.
I think every marketer on the planet has
saw
watched the
that,
John Oliver
where he
rant.
basically said native was just a lie. It was
Yes.
just a way of trying to convince readers that you were editorially created content rather than advertising.
Yep, that's right.
So,
Can you make the counter argument?
Please.
So, look, guys, if any marketer, and I'm sure there are quite a few of you in the audience, thinks about this, the first word you should be thinking about is transparency. Very first word. If what we are doing as brands and marketers isn't inherently transparent, just go home, right?
So you
Doesn't
can't
make any
trick
sense.
people.
Oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. So I'd say that's the first. The second that I always think about, and again, it's so interesting to be sitting here with an esteemed journalist talking about this. I think marketers, brands, need to set the same level of quality for their content as Allan Murray does. Now, that is not to confuse the two, but if we ever go out and say, well, look, we want to do something, we know it can't be that good because we're a brand, recipe for disaster, but we've got to define
I can tell you from my side of the aisle, there are people who were sort of my predecessors, I guess is the way, people who are who were with the company who would look at the native advertising in the magazine, now this is in the print world, and say, we want that to be as ugly as possible so no one confuses it with what we do.
And who is the
suffers?
casualty of that?
The reader.
The reader,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so I think, as long as it's transparent, as long as people know what is what, creating great experiences for the reader should be what we're all about.
It should be what we're all about. And I'd say that, Allan took my third one, thankfully, which is, never forget the user at the end, right? So whenever we're talking about something on the marketing side, we try exceptionally hard, or at least I do, and I think I benefit from not being a technologist at heart. Those of you who know me know I'm not really. I love technology, but it's not in my bones. So I always default to the user. I always default to what's the experience going to be.
When I was preparing for this session and searching on Google on other things you had said and so forth, I saw something you wrote where you said, we need to abandon the RFP.
Yes.
Which is all you marketers out there know what that is.
Yeah.
And those of us on the other side know what that is because somebody from the sales department comes to us at the last minute and says, we have an RFP we have to respond to in 24 hours. Why did you say that?
Because I believe that it is actually, Allan, something that brings everybody down to the lowest level versus sort of demands our very best work. So for us, when we work with a Fortune or a Thrillist or a Skim or Poncho or whomever, it's often bespoke. Because the readers are bespoke, users are bespoke. It's not as though somebody's sort of looking at our marketing plan trying to match this all up. Somebody's on Snapchat, or somebody's reading Fortune, or somebody's on Vice, and we want to think about what that experience needs to be and how to sort of craft it in the most contextual way possible. And I think RFPs by nature, destroy the fabric of that.
They bureaucratize.
They bureaucratize and homogenize.
Yeah.
And those are two things, I guess.
You're trying to avoid.
I hate those two words.
We have one more,
We do.
which I haven't seen yet. We're going to look at that, and then if you'll let us, we can take a couple of questions from the audience. Okay, good.
Yep,
Let's
that's good.
take a look.
Okay. So, fun way for us to talk about our love for science.
There's an expression we use for an unlikely or impossible event. When something has little or no chance, we say that it has a snowball's chance in hell. But those are the kinds of odds we like. In our experiment, we're going to send a snowball to hell and try to bring it back safely. Attempting this at an old foundry, where the molten metal reaches temperatures of over 2,000 degrees. We think this makes it pretty much the closest thing to hell that exists on Earth. To pull this off, we got GE scientists and engineers at the Global Research Center to collaborate and come up with a solution. They drew on technology from the power, aviation, and healthcare industries and developed a vessel made from a special superalloy. It was engineered to withstand incredibly high temperatures, so we normally use it to build jet engines, which have to endure extreme environmental stresses. But it was never designed for this. We're putting the snowball in a specially designed 3D printed holder, and then placing that in our vessel. Then we lower it into a vat and completely cover it in molten metal slag. And when we pull it out, we hope our snowball will be intact.
See, I'm thinking in tradition. Yeah, go ahead. Clap for it. I thought it was pretty good. I said we'd have time for questions because I thought you were going to show a 30-second ad. That's not 30 seconds. Where does that run? Where do you see that?
So we put this online in a variety of different places, Facebook, YouTube, our own channels, and people loved it, and so much so we did 3 of them: Snowball's Chance in Hell, Catching Lightning in a Bottle, and Talking to a Wall. And it was so well received, we launched a competition across global universities to send us the next idiom amongst engineers, and we'll make a video out of it. Look, it's good storytelling, right?
Great
I mean, I think
storytelling,
it's
yeah.
just good storytelling, another way to talk, in this case, about GE's material science. I could sit here and talk to you about material science, and I think you'd get a pillow and go, or we could create something like this where you're a little bit, I hope, on the edge of your seat, waiting to see if it melted or not. So we think of that as another way to talk about GE and our brand.
All right, Steffi, can I take one question? One question. So this really puts the pressure on you. The question has to be a
Gotta
good
be
one.
great.
Yeah, because this will be the only question we get. Who wants to do it? Oh, no, too much pressure. Come on, somebody. Right back there. Oh, well, can we, got one back there too, Steph. You gonna let me take them both? Go ahead.
Shout.
My name's Andrew Mahan. I have an agency here in New York City, Type Code. So when you look at the campaigns that GE's run, from partnerships with Dot and DataWorks to ads like this that target lots of people who aren't necessarily your direct customers, I'm curious about how you either qualify or quantify the success of these campaigns.
It's great. So the question was, when we do things like that aren't aimed at people that buy jet engines, how do we quantify the success? So the way I would answer it very simply is, our customers are people too. They don't log on to a different internet at night. Now, are they on Snapchat? Probably not, but you never know. But today, the way people, as we all know, find information is anything but a straight line. It's serendipitous. So we want to be where we think people who might buy our stock come to work for us, partner with us. We've got a big ventures arm, or buy from us might be. And that takes us to all kinds of different places. And I would sort of argue till I'm out of breath that that is the right strategy for a modern company. Thank you.
Very quickly.
How do you resolve the tension between doing things at a smoke level and then also at scale?
Yeah, I'll tell you what we did, and it's worked really well for us. So we created a disruption lab on my team, just a couple people, and they're not seconded, they're very much part of the whole group, but they are out there talking to John Borthwick, at BetaWorks. They're out there looking for sort of the next poncho, the next Micmac, and it's kind of like what they wake up in the morning doing. And I think you've got to, in my opinion, sort of give some room to experimentation. Now, at the same time, part of the challenge is, once you do it, can you scale it? But I think you got to give room to experimentation. So that's what we do.
Linda, thank you.
Thank you, Allan. It was great. Thanks, everybody.